back to Secondhand Sellers, where we talk about all things thrift, resale, and secondhand. I'm Sarah.
And I'm Klayton.
Thanks for joining us again this week. Today we would like to talk about developing an eye for finding items. So basically tips, tricks, how we learned how to identify desirable items, and how we continue to learn to identify desirable items. Do you want to go ahead? Do you have a specific tip in mind for how did you develop your eye, I guess?
Overall, I think the biggest thing is doing research. We've already talked about doing research.
We have a whole
before,
episode on research, so go look for that if you're interested in learning how to do more on that.
The more research you do, or even other videos, like I spend not a whole lot of time each week because I am busy, but probably a good hour each week listening or watching other videos where people are going out and thrifting and they're finding brands that they're showing the comps that you can get off of them.
Mm-hmm.
So that way I'm just more aware of what I should be looking out for.
Because, is this YouTube, TikTok?
It's generally YouTube.
Okay.
Just because there are things, I don't know everything. I don't know what everybody's interested in. There are things that I am not interested in, but there's still money to be made. Mm-hmm. And so by watching videos where people are like, oh, did you know that this brand fishing reel is worth $60? I wouldn't have considered fishing reels to be worth more than $20 or $30 because I'm not a fisherman. Yeah. It's something I just wouldn't have even considered looking at it. However, by being socially aware and watching what other people are actively picking up to sell, it's made me more aware of things I should be looking out for as I'm going thrifting. So
I think that's a good idea. I think too, when you're thinking about that, like you said, being socially aware, in every category, there is a low, medium, and a high.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter what it is. I don't care if it's soap, if we've talked about luxury candles, cookware, it doesn't matter. There's the bottom of the barrel, and there's the cream of the crop, and then there's stuff in between.
Yeah.
And usually, there are brands that are associated with the quality items and the expensive items, the desirable items. Mm-hmm. And sometimes, which some of you probably already are aware of this, and you maybe too, there are brand umbrellas that have a low, medium, and high. Mm-hmm. So you can think of tools. Yeah. Stanley Tools owns Craftsman now, and they also own Mac Tools. Mm-hmm. And then they have their Stanley line that's kind of in the middle.
Yeah.
And that goes for a lot of different brands. Clothing brands are the same way, where they own a whole umbrella. So sometimes you could even just look up, all right, I already know this brand. What are the other brands under that umbrella?
And by getting associated with those tiers of quality, it will keep you more aware of what other quality items that, because you already know Craftsman, everybody wants it. Mm-hmm. It hasn't been, right? It hasn't been made anymore in a while, right?
Well, Sears had it and Stanley bought it out.
Okay,
and I think the quality went, because Sears, the quality started going down.
Yeah.
It was really great in the 90s, and then it went down. Mm-hmm. And then Stanley bought it, and I think they're bringing it back up, because Stanley is known for quality items. When you always think of or at least I do, the iconic Stanley green thermos. Mm-hmm. Those are iconic for a reason. They last forever. You can use your great-grandpa's, and it's still great. And so, the Craftsman quality has now been pulled up because Stanley bought them out. Yeah. But that's still not, it's a good quality for the tier it's on, I think. It's still not the comp to Mac Tools or something.
It's still something that people are desiring. Mm-hmm. In fact,
it's a recognizable brand.
I made a decent amount of money selling some Craftsman tools over the past year.
Well, they have a lifetime warranty, too.
Yeah. And it's just by being aware that, just because this brand means good quality, it's generally going to mean the same for other lines of... Anyway, I'm repeating. But another way, honestly, whenever I'm out and I'm looking around, I don't know what I'm looking at. I research it. I'll pick it up. I'll look at the bottom. If there's a maker's mark.
Always look for a maker's mark.
And
look closely for a maker's mark, because sometimes they're very subtle.
Yeah. And if it's not there, Google Lens. Google Lens will take you miles.
And we've talked about this in our research episode, but just another note on why I said to look. One of the reasons I said to look closely on the Maker's Mark is, so like I've talked again and again about the wine glasses. When there are wine glasses that are from a reputable maker, Lennox, Resale, whoever, Mikasa, they're often etched at the base, but sometimes you can't see it. I picked up one the other day that I saw the word oxygen. It was like O2 with oxygen at the end, etched into the base. It was very hard to see, especially because the glass was dirty. And I Google Lensed it, and it came up as Lennox oxygen. After I cleaned it and got it home, I held it up and I'm like, the Lennox is right there. But I didn't even see the Lennox. And Lennox is everybody, I shouldn't say everybody, lots of people know Lennox. They've been around forever. So sometimes those Maker's Marks are super subtle. And it was the same thing with the cat statue, which we featured in a couple of shorts and things. I think our last video we talked about the cat. So. I didn't realize till well after I got home, even after looking for a mark, where the MMA, which was the Museum of Modern Art, the Met anyway in New York, they had it was stamped into the bronze, but it was so far down that you had to be at a certain angle to even see it.
Yeah. So
I think looking for that closely and using Google Lens sometimes in conjunction can really help, I think.
Yeah.
I think there's other brands are always great, and Google Lens, great tool. Sometimes both of those fail.
Yeah. It
won't have a Maker's Mark anymore, or you can't find it.
Or it's a personally made item, like handcrafted.
Or the Google Lens cannot bring up the comp because it's too similar to other things. In those cases, I think, and maybe you have some tips and tricks in this realm too, there are ways to identify quality that don't involve knowing the brand. And I think sometimes, even if it is branded, you can determine the quality of a piece by looking at it. So for me, I think when you think of, let's say, housewares, things that are metal, is it heavy for the size?
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Heavy for the size. What is your example? Because I think it works for cookware, obviously for statues.
What comes to mind is in Jurassic Park, they're in the Jeeps, and the kid is in the back, Timmy. He's got the heavy goggles, and the lawyer is like, "Are they heavy?" He's like, "Yeah, it's expensive. Put it back." Whenever you have something of quality made, it's generally made with metals or other quality materials as opposed to plastic, which plastic is so abundant these days. And even something as simple as brass. It's not an expensive metal, but you get a nice brass piece that's made for sculptures, or I even saw a video recently. Guy picked up this brass pumpkin. It's shaped like a jack-o'-lantern. You put a candle inside of it. It's worth like $15, $40 if you have the pair. It's something about that quality work. It's heavy. People want it. Yeah,
even though it's not a super expensive metal, brass does have inherent value. So does aluminum and copper. Things that are not precious metals, but they do have an inherent value. And it's especially true when it's there in quantity, so it's thick. I think copper is a good example. A lot of people collect copper cookware. Not all copper cookware is created equal. It's really easy to pick up a lightweight, cheap-feeling copper and tin line, like a tin line copper pan, when you find a, let's say, French-made copper piece. There's a couple of brands, Movial, I don't speak French, so please excuse that if you do speak French, is one, and Williams-Sonoma has carried those ones, and the thickness of the metal. So they're copper on the outside, sometimes copper, some pans have copper core, and they're tin lined, but when you pick them up, you can feel the weight, for one, but also you can actually visually see it. So it's not, the edge of that pan is probably, 1/8 of an inch thick, maybe a little less than that, and you pick up a cheap one and it's, paper thin. Yeah. So I think that's a big one. Do you have any other, specific tips for that? I can think of a couple other ones that I can say you can look for.
I'm trying to think. There's one you can do with magnets.
For metal?
Yeah, for metal. I just can't remember what it is. In particular, I'm blanking right now.
I think stainless is non-magnetic. True stainless, like high-quality stainless. Like 1810 maybe. It measures how much iron is in there.
It has to do with, silver.
Okay, because silver's not magnetic.
Yeah, silver's not magnetic.
Same with copper.
You can find a lot of silver goods that it's like, oh, this is actually silver and not
plated. Yep, which is the difference.
Yeah.
Like, there's a big value difference in silver plated and actual silver. Mm-hmm. Probably mostly for kitchenware, or like fine utensils and things.
Yeah.
Another tip I would give if you're trying to learn how to identify quality, and again, relying on brands is great, and I think sometimes you can use a brand to help yourself learn. So, construction of clothing, whether or not it's lined, a dress that is lined is probably going to be better quality than a dress that is not lined. And the same would go for like men's suits. If you get a pair of suit pants and if the inside is not finished, it's going to be a cheaper pair than if you get a nice finished suit with a nice like lined jacket and everything like that. But also like how the seams are constructed. Are they reinforced? Does it look like it will last a long time? And sometimes you can take brands, so like, let's say if you see like Red Wing boots, I think those are a good example for expensive, well-constructed leather boots for men especially, even though they do have women's lines. If you took those and you compared them, you don't have to buy them. Go into a store and look. And you look at them, look at how they're constructed, read about online how they're constructed. And then compare it to a cheap pair of $50 boots. Mm-hmm. You will see and feel the difference there. And the clothes are the same way. You know, if you get a more expensive shirt, even t-shirts, the material will be thicker. Mm-hmm. The seams will be better constructed. Things will be straighter. You won't have a weird twist in the
It will fit better overall.
It will fit better. It will last better. And I think those are just general. You may not even be able to find the brand. It may be an old item. The brand may not even exist. But by looking for those hallmarks, you can often identify quality work. And also natural materials. Wool, cashmere, cotton, linen. Things that are not super hyper-synthetic. Mm-hmm. A lot of times are higher quality. Did you have any other specific tips on that? How did you develop your eye?
Honestly, it's literally, I touch things.
Yep,
I go in, I grab things.
We talked about this, I think
it was the last episode or the one before we talked about.
Within the last couple episodes.
Pick
it up. Yeah. Pick it up. Look for the marks. Touch it. Feel it. If it feels cheap, it probably is. Mm-hmm. So I think that's... And sometimes it's just trial and error. Yeah. Practice.
A lot of it is trial and error. Because there will be times you think something's high quality. And it's like, okay, I'm going to pick this up because it's $5. It seems like a good deal. And then you get it home and it falls apart. And it's like, oh, that wasn't really very nice. Or there is implied quality from a previous line. Mm-hmm. But as time proceeds, oh, look at that. It's no longer...
Brand's not the same now as it was 30 years ago.
It's not as good. It doesn't last as long. There's a specific type of dish. It's not Pyrex or...
Is it anchor hacking?
No, it's for... It's like a place setter dish. I can't remember.
Like a platter?
Yeah. With like kitchen... But anyway, it used to be very nice, very good dishes. If you get the older stuff, you can be earning like $60 for a set of little bowls, or more if you have the full set and stuff. Today's quality, it's like, don't even touch it. Don't even worry yourself about it. I wish I could remember the brand, because...
If you remember it, we'll put it in the video.
Yeah,
if you can remember it afterwards. But yeah, I think those are just some general tips. Trial and error is a big one, and no one wants to hear that. But learning about quality is the same as learning about anything, in that it's a time-based activity. Yeah. But you can even draw from your own experience in your home. What brands, what items, what materials have lasted you and have like proven the test of time to be good quality versus the ones that you had to replace every year. And I think that's a good place to start. Look at your furniture. Which pieces lasted and which fell apart. I've had this experience where we bought a new couch and it was crappy, and then we bought a used couch and it has been far superior to that original crappy brand new couch. I think the one last thing I would say is just learn in general. So learn about how things are made. For instance, hand-blown glass is different than molded glass. And it doesn't necessarily mean that all molded glass is bad, but the hand-blown glass looks finer and is often used because it is a more labor-intensive technique. It requires a decent amount of skill. I've seen glass blowers. I don't know if have you ever seen glass blowers in person?
Yeah. It's incredibly intricate.
It's
the details
an art
they put into
form.
it, and
And so they have to really learn how to do this, how to work with the heat, the furnaces and everything. And so when you see a hand-blown item, I've, for instance, picked up an ornament that was hand-blown. That is going to be inherently finer than something that is just mass-produced on a machine. And that goes for everything. Everything. Clothes, furniture, decor, anything that requires craftsmanship will probably be better quality. At least if it's made by a professional crafter.
We've all seen the bad craft projects that end up at Goodwill.
Yeah, yes. I love it when you see things glued together, and now none of those items are useful.
In fact, we plan on doing a special video about that in the future, so
stay tuned.
Keep your eye on that.
So we have a segment. I don't think we've done this one before.
Not yet.
This is a new one. The one that got away. So the idea behind this segment is something that we didn't pick up, and we wish we had picked up after the fact. We got home, we realized value, what it was maybe, but we lost the opportunity. Or something that was out in the wild and someone else got to it first. And obviously we've talked about ethics before. We don't take from other people. We don't fight over things. No, we're not about that. So they got to it first. They got it. Yep. So
why don't you go ahead and kick us off with this?
You want me to go first? Yeah. Okay. The one that got away. Mine was in the second camp. So I was at Goodwill. And as you probably know, I think probably because of staffing issues, often they will just, well, maybe not, because they're putting it away at the time, but they roll out the carts and people will look at the carts. They're usually like a 4-tiered, like rolling tray cart. And they will roll them out and people will look at them while the person's putting them away, because usually there's only one worker per cart. Sometimes one worker, and they'll have 2 or 3 carts sitting out. So one time I was in this Goodwill and the cart rolled out and I was too timid, and that is on me, and I have got to stop that.
Yeah, you got to walk right up to that cart.
I got to stop. I hesitated too long, and on the very top of this cart I saw like an enameled item. It was cookware. It was like a Dutch oven. And it was a smaller one, like this big. And I saw it, and I wondered what brand it was. Because you probably know this. The brand of Dutch oven, and I'm talking about the enameled cast iron Dutch ovens. There are different brands, as we talked about earlier, high and low. So, I guess it's this way, high and low. I have one that is a Staub brand. I don't know if you're familiar with Staub. They are on the same plane as Le Creuset. So everyone knows the Le Creuset.
So I've heard Staub. I haven't heard of that one. But then
really?
I don't sell cookware very often.
That is so funny. Most people, if they know about high-end cast iron, like enameled cast iron, they think of Le Creuset.
Okay.
Staub is the other one. Also made in France. Similar price point. Known for being heritage level quality. And it was the same color as the one I had at home. And I did not go fast enough, and I saw someone else pick it up, and I know she was a reseller, and I saw her checking for it, and I'm like, I knew right away. Like, I wasn't sure that that's what it was, but I wondered, and then after it was in her car, I just was curious, and I looked at it, and sure enough, it was a Staub, and they had it marked for like $12.99, and I would have gotten it and kept it, probably.
Yeah, probably.
Because it matched I think it matched the one we have, and it was much smaller than the one we have, because the one we have, if you have a cast iron Dutch oven of any kind, they're very heavy.
Yeah.
And so we have a bigger one and it's a lot. And also you just don't always need that volume. And so that is my one that got away. To this day, I think about that and I wish I had been a little more forward and had just walked right up and picked it up just like everybody else was doing.
Yeah.
Not rudely, but just, assertively. And that same day, someone else had other guys had a Le Croisset in their cart. So like this day, for some reason...
And somebody had a whole bunch of high-end cookware.
And we're cleaning it out, I guess.
But
I missed out, so on me. What about you?
So back in the summer, I was hitting up tons of garage sales. And one of the last ones I stopped at, I think I was doing like another hour worth. So I stopped at this garage sale, and they had a whole bunch of beer merch. Like signage, pull tabs, just whole...
A collector. Basically.
Yeah, a collector. It looked like she was downsizing her garage. I actually heard some of her conversation. Her daughter and kids were moving back in, and they were just cleaning out some stuff to make room. One of the things I passed up on, and I wish I didn't, they had this awesome wooden crate that said Angry Orchards on it. And it has like a wood carving of an apple, and it's got the branding logo. It looked really, really cool. She wanted, I think it was $25 or $30. And I thought, that's cool.
High for a crate.
But that's high for, it's a wooden crate. Whatever. Turns out, I got thinking about it at home that night. And of course, this was the last day for garage sales. It was the Sunday. I got thinking about it that night, and I looked it up online. They go for $150 because they were for some promotional event.
So they were a limited edition crate, not just the regular.
Yeah, it wasn't the normal crate, and I was just like,
darn it.
And it would. The thing is, why I didn't pick it up. It was cool enough that personally I would have kept it because I do enjoy Angry Orchard. It was something that I was like, that would be really nice in like man cave or something. But I don't have the space for it. And I said, I'm not going to worry about it. And I'm really kicking myself because had I known, I would have picked it up to sell.
Yep.
And that
you
would
won't
have
forget
been,
that either.
No, I won't.
Like lodged in your brain now.
And that goes back to what we said before. If it's something that's unique and it jumps out at you, you should probably look it up at least.
Yeah.
And if it's cheap enough, go ahead and just pick it up. Because if you are like, I really like it, but it's not quite my style, someone else will find it cool.
Mm-hmm. There are lots of things. I can appreciate a diverse style, but I mean, like, there are people who decorate their homes or like, their how they dress themselves in ways that I can appreciate, but I would never do. And it's the same when you're reselling. Like, you can see an object that's really interesting. It may not go with your lifestyle.
Yeah.
It's going to go with somebody's lifestyle.
Yep.
All right. Did you have any other ones? The style was the big one for me, but...
Just a few other times where it's like walking up to the sale and it's like, oh man, wish I had been here 10 minutes sooner because that was a great deal.
You saw somebody else carrying it around.
There was, I can't remember what it was specifically, but it was computer stuff. And they sold it for so cheap, and it was like, that was a great deal, but
yeah.
But it's the name of the game. It first come, first serve, both when you're sourcing material and when you're selling material.
And you don't want to go into it. I mean, it does suck when you have those situations where you see, that if you had just been there a little earlier, you would have gotten it. Or if, in my case, you'd been more assertive, you would have gotten it. But as much as that sucks, like, products, especially in the Western world, there's no shortage of them.
No. And
the scarcity mindset doesn't do you any good.
And that's
there's
kind of
plenty of stuff out there for everybody.
I ended up finding something else at that same sale. So it worked out. It was just like, could have earned money with that. But it's fine. It's not the end of the world. I'm not out money because I didn't buy it.
Yeah, just
you can't factor it because I wasn't going to have it anyway. But it's just...
It's a bummer.
It's how it is.
It is. And I think, I don't know, like I said, the scarcity mindset thing, if you think there is not enough for other people, and I think a lot of bad behavior comes from this. It's like, I have to get in there and fight for it because, like, you have to make a buck and there's not enough. If you think that, go to a thrift store for 5 days straight. Mm-hmm. At least where we live, you will see different stuff every single day. Every day there's new inventory and there's some stuff. You're not going to be able to look at every single item at the thrift store anyway. And then when you go 5 days in a row, go to the bins and see how much stuff is on its way to the landfill. So there is plenty out there for everybody. And that's a Goodwill that enough people frequent. Like, it's busy. You know, Sarah resells, I resell. I know like 3 other people that resell passively as well. Mm-hmm. I'm sure you know other people who do it. We're all in a relative same community. Mm-hmm. And it's not like we're bleeding dry about what items we have. No, there's plenty of stuff. And we don't live in a massive suburban area like Detroit or other large cities. Yeah, so. We're not inside a major metropolitan area. Yeah. I think like there's a lot of people. I would say we're in a reasonably well-populated area. But I think the city I live in, where we are right now, is 12 or 13,000 people maybe. Mm-hmm. And it's also economically, like socioeconomically diverse, the region we live in. There are some very poor people and some very wealthy people. And it's crazy the amount of stuff that we can find at one Goodwill. One Goodwill. That's not even counting the bins. Yeah, or the other places, estate sales and things. Mm-hmm. So there is plenty out there for everyone. Yeah. So don't panic if you have license to feel a little sad, but don't panic if you see that great item walk out with somebody else. Good for them. And that's kind of the crazy thing. I can't even remember what it was exactly. Yeah, but you just know it was just something. Like, oh darn, had I been here a little sooner, but whatever. All right. Anyway, thank you so much for joining us again this week to talk a little bit more about how to do the thing, how to develop an eye for what to sell. So if you guys have suggestions, we would love to hear them. How did you learn what was good quality, what was worth reselling, and what to pass up on? Mm-hmm. We always want tips, so please put those below. Like and subscribe while you're down there. And join us again next week for another episode. We appreciate it. Yes, thanks so much. Bye.